Well, now Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe has pushed back strongly, insisting that the Senate did approve real-time electronic transmission of results and not its rejection, as widely reported. Speaking alongside 13 serving senators, Mr. Abaribe said the confusion lay in the wording, stressing that the Senate approved transmission, not transfer of results, a distinction he calls deliberate and legally important. He maintains that consensus was reached after consultations with INEC and civil society, but admits that the legislative process is not yet complete. So, did the Senate secure the future of transparent elections, or has ambiguity been allowed to creep back into Nigeria's democratic process?
Is what we pass. Transmit, not transfer. What is in 2022 is transfer. And we don't want a law that is vague. We don't want a law that will be misinterpreted by anybody. We want a law that is clear, concise, and can be interpreted by all, and that is unambiguous. So it is electronic transmission of results, yes. All what we discussed yesterday, as far as the law is concerned, is inchoate until we meet and approve the votes and proceedings. Until we adopt it, every other thing, it will still be there in the ether. Nobody can go to any harmonization without it.
Senator Abaribe. Well, for more on this, Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe joins me now in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
A fairly busy day for you, I imagine. But from what we know so far, just to be clear on exactly what actually happened, because Nigerians are watching very closely, in clear language, did the Senate approve real-time electronic transmission of election results, yes or no?
Yes. And I'll tell you how it happened.
Yeah.
And I will let me set the stage first. In the last elections in 2022, which was used in 2023 elections, all the time that people went to court, all the way to the Supreme Court, especially for the presidential elections, the court held that what INEC put as their guidelines, because that particular proposition in the Act says transfer of result as approved by the INEC. They held that INEC guidelines were not law. And that was why everyone prior to this time, and from the time that the Electoral Committee of the Senate and the House started meeting from 2024 to now, everyone now agreed that since there's this problem with the law, it's much better that we put it, and so that it's clear and it's concise. And the Senate Committee on Electoral Act and the House Committee had a joint committee. They met 27 times from 2024. They met with INEC, they met with all stakeholders, they went with the CSOs. They now came back to us with the report. Now, when the report was brought, what was there in the report, which was also agreed by them, and all this while that they met, was there should be electronic transmission of results through the IREV. And so, it was what was put in the document before us. Now, when that document was brought, which was the amendment of this 2022 Act, the Senate, in its wisdom, decided to set up another ad hoc committee led by Senator Adebomire San to review everything again. Then the Senate went again to move into an executive session. The reason for going into the executive session, which is where we now say, let us talk to each other, is that we can fight, we can, and we don't want Nigerians to see us fighting over crossing T or dotting an I. And we said, fine, so let us approve everything. We approved all the ones we could approve.
Including electronic
transmission. And so when we now came back, because it's better that we got the whole sequence, for plenary session, it was simply for us to just go through what was already approved in the executive session. That's why if you notice what happened, the Senate President will simply say, section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, approve, we say approve. So because we wanted to go through it. And that was how we went through up till we got to section 60. Of course, so many people were walking about, people were talking to each other because everybody assumed that the matter had been settled through all these processes. And so what we now felt was that we had already passed this. In the document that I have, what is inside there is electronic transmission through the IREF.
Right.
And so we felt that this had already been done. So we were surprised. While we were still in the chamber, that we started getting reports that no, that wasn't what was passed. So everybody was perplexed. And so people started walking around to say, what went on here? Because this was like an assumption of something that had already gone. So I went personally to the Senate President, and the President now said, oh no, let him clarify. And he said it. Oh, don't worry, what we passed was transmit, not that,
transfer.
And all that. So we were now surprised.
When the report started coming.
When the report started coming
So
out,
what I
and then
want to-
some of our colleagues now said
Right.
that in the document they had, that he said transfer. I said, no, it can't be. So we didn't want this confusion. So a few of us who were still around, we called each other and said, no, this is not what we passed to. Let us make sure that Nigerians know. And you have, and I've given you the background. The
Right.
reason why Nigerians don't want any confusion rising again. We don't want courts taking decisions on elections.
But we're pretty clear on that of what Nigerians want. What we're not clear about is if this approval that you say took place is as clear as you say it is.
Okay.
Why did so many Nigerians and seasoned parliamentary reporters come away believing it was rejected?
You know, there was a real confusion, you know.
Well, that's the problem we have with you guys in the National
going up
Assembly.
and down
You're
and all
always
that.
confusing us, and we don't know what's going
We're
on.
not confusing you. Now, that was why we also, in our press conference, we said, usually, no matter how you do anything in the listen, when we come back to do the next
Right.
legislative day in our process, there's a votes and proceedings. When that votes and proceedings is brought, then the Senate President will say, page 1, page 2. If there's any anomaly, you now point it and say, no, that wasn't what
Right.
we approved. So that's why we said that this process is not over until we see the votes and proceedings. So that when we're looking at the votes and proceedings, if it is now there in the votes and proceedings that it is no longer electronic transmission, what is there is transfer as per whatever was there before, then we will say no, Mr. President, no.
Right. Well, two things here. Earlier, I read that you said that your integrity is at stake.
Obviously,
In other
every
words-
senator's integrity is at stake.
Right.
Because as we said, we are there only on public trust.
Indeed.
We are there because
And it's
Nigerians say, go and do this for us.
And that's why people like to hear from people like you that they have considerable measure of trust in. You also insist that the difference between transfer and transmission is deliberate. In practical terms, how does this wording prevent results from being delayed, altered, or selectively uploaded?
Because I've also given you the reason.
Right.
And the reason is simple. Every time you go to courts, because the wording there says transfer according to
Right.
the guidelines of INEC.
Right.
And you go to court.
And that has been removed. now
Precisely, we
completely.
removed it now
Right.
because the courts will always say, "Oh, whatever is the guidelines
Right.
is not
Yes,
law."
we understand that. But just to be ineluctably clear,
Precisely.
does the approved language that you've now approved, this language of transmission, compel INEC to transmit results from polling units in real time, or does it still leave room for discretion?
Well, that is why we say it should be transmit in real time,
Right.
so that there's no discretion given to INEC.
So that's the language we should expect to
That's
see.
exactly what we expect to see. And the
Right.
reason is very simple. And I said this, and I always want Nigerians to know. If you claim that you're here on the mandate of the people, at any level in Nigeria, and you're facing an election, for God's sake, why do you want to have something that is murky?
Yeah,
Why?
indeed.
I came here on the mandate of people of Abia South. I will prefer that on the day of election, real-time transmission, let the Abia South people say, we do not want you anymore.
Well, that's you.
what we want.
Yeah, indeed, that's you. But the votes and proceedings have not yet been adopted.
Precisely.
Until that happens, can Nigerians honestly say that this reform is secure?
We can now tell Nigerians, wait until you see the votes and proceedings, because the process of the votes and proceedings is also a process of acceptance or non-acceptance of what you write down.
Right.
If you now bring it and say, and we look at the votes and proceedings, and what we see is transfer, we will say, no, that's not what we approved.
Right.
Precisely.
Now, as I'm sure you know, having been through many elections in Nigeria on different levels, and astonishingly, you've come through all of them virtually unscathed, which suggests that the public, certainly in your area, have confidence in you. But many Nigerians believe that the political elite, including members of the Senate, fear real-time transmission because it limits post-election maneuvering. How do you convince a skeptical public to the contrary?
Well, the only way we can convince a skeptical public is to make sure that this is what is in the wording of the law, so that there is no more confusion, so that no court will now say, oh, we're not so sure, this and that. We want to make sure that nobody is given a chance to do interpretation within whatever he feels it is. Let interpretation be clear, concise, open to everyone, even to non-legal
minds.
Precisely.
If the final harmonized bill weakens real-time transmission, presumably you will publicly oppose it.
Obviously. Not just me. A majority of senators will oppose it. Because we had this whole debate while we were in the executive session. And I tell you the reason why we don't let people, if people see us in executive session, sometimes you want to throw chairs, sometimes you want to throw punches.
Well, let me
That's
take,
why we
let me
keep
take
it away
you
from
up
the
on that,
public.
because you know the public the public are very, very skeptical. They are very suspicious of whatever you guys do there. I will ask you again, why was this matter discussed in closed session, given the extraordinary public interest around electronic transmission?
So let me put it this way. What we discussed is the Electoral Act.
Right.
All aspects of the act, not just the matter of electronic transmission.
Yes, obviously the whole body of
the whole
the
body.
law. Yeah,
And so there are people who have one issue or the other with it and all that, and they will raise it. And there's some other people who say, listen, my friend, why don't you see what is clear, this and that? And then they'll say, why? Don't talk to me this way. So, all those kind of things. That's what we want to keep away from the public. Right. Because you have children, you have the whole world looking at us. And so we want to have a measure of, gravity. Let me just put it that way.
Right.
In our
basically, you didn't want the public to see those who were dissenting, who didn't want public